how I'd invest in real estate from scratch in 2024. All right, guys, let's just say I was starting in real estate in 2024 right now. Let's say I didn't have any of the resources I had, but let's say I had the knowledge, but I didn't have the properties or anything else like that. What would I do? Well, the first thing that I want to talk about is the difference between income and cash flow. Okay, so fix and flipping properties, wholesaling properties, doing those things is fantastic, and you can make a really good amount of money, but it isn't passive income unless you build a business and put systems in place where people are running that and you can step away. So that's something where you're always doing something. It's active income, meaning you're having to do something to make money. Now, the money can be really great with those things, but the question is, what do you do with that money in order to get you passive income? So for me, the end goal is passive income. Retirement, financial freedom for me is how many months I can go without having to work. Now, I may want to work and I may not want to work, but how many months can I go without having to work? That's my definition of financial freedom. And so the first thing I like to do is I like to start and say, okay, what's that number? What is that dollar amount that you would need on a monthly basis that is passive in order for you to not have to work again? You may want to, you may not want to, but what does that number look like? For this purposes, I'm just gonna say that's $6,000. Roughly $72,000 a year, let's just say. Now, you may want a lot more than that. You may want a lot less than that. I don't know what that is, but I'm gonna start with $6,000 in passive income. So the question is, how can I get this passive income? Well, there's a few ways you can do it. You can do it through rentals, which I look at as long-term rentals. Short-term rentals can be passive, but if you're managing it yourself, it's back to that active income strategy because you're in charge of that. So this would have to be hands-off vacation rentals, which means a full management company is taking care of it that you trust. But long-term rentals, hands-off vacation rentals, this could be hard money lending. And this could be some limited partnerships, which could be investing in other things. Now, yes, you can look at apartment complexes, you can look at everything else like that. My recommendation, if you want to do those, look to do those in limited partnerships with people that have a lot of experience. My two favorites are long-term rental properties and hard money lending. Those are my two favorites. So if I was saying I'm starting all over, I want $6,000 a month in cash flow, how am I going to get that? Well, the nice thing about rentals is there's a few ways to make money, right? So in a rental situation, I'm making money, number one, by the values increase. Number two, I'm making because the rent increase over time. I've got some tax savings. I've got, which is kind of the depreciation. This is appreciation. I've got the amortization, which is the tenant is paying down my principal balance, right? So I've got values going up. I've got rents going up. I've got tax savings that are helping, and I've got my debt being paid down. And so one of the things I really look at with these rentals is the market increase is going to help me drastically, which is why I look at the rentals. So let's look at this. Okay, so this gives you a pretty good idea. In the 1900s, I don't know what that is, around $10,000. You can see it was flat in the 1940s is really where it started to pick up, and ever since then it's been picking up. What I think is really interesting for people to realize is 2008, 2010, you can see things did come down, but they went from 175 to 165. This drop in here was less than 20%. And that's a reason why banks love you putting 20% down is if you put 20% down, their risk is really, really low if something like this actually happens. But here's what's interesting. It went down and it came right back up. Now, a lot of people are like, I want to time the market and buy right here. That's not how you do it. What you do is you consistently buy and you do what's called dollar cost averaging. So if you buy a house for $250,000 this year and next year you buy one for $270,000, and the next year you buy one for $290,000, and then prices go down to $200 and you buy one at $200, your average of those is dollar cost averaging. So 220, 240, 260, 200. We add those up. These are thousands. We add those up and then we divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4, and that gives us our average. And so our dollar cost averaging, it's better to dollar cost average into these properties than try and time the market, because it's impossible to time the market and you lose the opportunity as time goes on. So that puts me into them at 230. Now, if prices are at 200 for a long time, maybe I buy another one at 200. That's going to put me 200 plus 260 plus 240 plus 220 divided by 5. Whoops. It's going to put me at 224. So you can see if the market goes up and then it goes down, that's going to help me. And then if the market starts heading back up, like we saw right here, that drastic incline, now you're going to see the overall go up. And so this dollar cost averaging of regularly buying. Now, maybe this is, I'm going to buy a property every year. Maybe I'm going to buy a couple a year. Maybe I'm going to buy one every other year, but it's saying, I am going to buy properties on a systematic time schedule rather than I'm going to buy properties at whims. Now, if we know we're at a low in the market and you're like, instead of buying one property this year or one property, maybe I'll buy 2 this year, that might make some sense to do, but you've got to be prepared for that, which is why we are having this conversation. Okay, so next thing we've got to do is say, what is it going to cost us to do, what am I going to need for rentals to end up making the money that I need to make? Well, let's just do this. Let's do Atlanta, Georgia. Why not? Okay, so one of the things that you will see here is average rent. Okay, so average rent for a 5 bedrooms, $3,900. Now we can actually, let's do a zip code. Okay, in this area, average rents for a 4-bedroom house is $2,712 a month. Okay, so $2,712 a month. We're gonna get rid of this. Remember, our goal is $6,000, $72,000 a year. So our goal is passive $6K a month. Okay, this is this whole concept of beginning with the end in mind, right? Like, what do we want? So I really recommend 4-bedroom houses for my area. 4-bedroom houses in this area is renting for $2,712, okay? I'm just gonna say they rent for, let's just call it $2,700 to make life easy, okay? If that's the average rent for a 4-bed. Okay. Now, what happens is you've got some costs you've got to think about when we're dealing with these properties, okay? So you're going to have property tax. You're going to have repairs. You're going to have capital improvements. And you're going to have some vacancy. And you're also going to have insurance, property insurance, okay? So property insurance, let's say, I think on average, we're probably paying about $50 a month for property insurance. And so it may be as high as $100 a month, depending upon the area that you're in. You can package it, you can do those things. Let's just say it's $75 a month divided by 2,700. So that's gonna be let's just say it's 3% a month is what you're spending on your hazard insurance. Vacancies, my vacancies are super low, but I plan on 5% vacancy. Capital improvements, I plan on 5% capital improvements. Capital improvements are improving something that you're gonna do once and that's gonna last a long time. For example, if you're gonna fix up the roof, then that roof is gonna last for a long time, but you'll eventually need to replace something else. Now, repairs is like the toilet stopped working. I plan on 5% for that. And then property taxes, that's a known quantity. So I can come in here and get a good feel for what property taxes are. So let's just come down here. I've never been to this area actually, so I don't know, but tax information's right here. So the tax assessed value on this is $352,000. Property taxes is $50.90. So if we take the assessed value divided by $15.99, that means, whoops, $15.99 divided by 352, 320. So we're roughly 1.4% of the purchase. So in this situation, let's just say our property taxes are going to be, just say it's $5,000 a month divided by 12. So that's $416 a month. And you're going to divide that by 2,700, and that's going to be 15%. Now, a little secret here, I don't want my property taxes, they can't be more than, ideally, my property tax equals 1 month's rent. So in an ideal situation, my property tax for this property is no more than $2,700. This is not a house that I would buy as a rental. Let's just try and find something else here. Tax information, that's $6,000 on 247. So maybe this area is more expensive. If so, I'd be looking for another area, but I never want it to be more than 2 times. So 2,700 times 2, okay, 5,400, and the property tax on that one was 5,000. So that's okay, right? I never want it to be more than 2. 1 is ideal, okay? So let's talk about this, guys. Let's talk about all this. So we're looking at this without having a loan in place, and then we'll add the loan in later. So this is saying if this house was paid off, what would it be getting me in cash flow? And I'll show you how to do that. So we know that it's 2,700, and we've got $416 in property taxes. Repairs, 2,700 times 0.05 is $135 a month in repairs. Capital improvements is $135. Vacancies, $135. And we said this is going to be $75. So when this is all said and done, I've got $416 for property taxes. I've got $135 for repairs. I've got $135 for capital improvements. I've got $135 for vacancy. And I've got $75. So it's $896 is basically what we're at. So if I subtract that from the 2,700, subtract 896, that's going to equal $1,804. Okay, so if my goal is 6,000 a month, okay, then 6K, and I'm getting 1,840, so I go 6,000 divided by 1,804. That means I need 3.3 houses paid off in order for me to make my $6,000 that I'm looking to a month, okay? But you're gonna say, well, Ryan, how am I gonna pay these houses off? What am I gonna do? I'll get to that. Hang with me here. Okay, so what's gonna happen initially is you're going to want to purchase a property like this. So what happens here is you want to get into a property with little to no money down. If you've got money that you can put down and you can put 20% down, that's great. But if you don't, like most of us, like I didn't, you've got to find creative ways to do that. And the way that you do that is through what's called getting a good deal. You're buying a wholesale deal rather than a retail deal, and by doing value add. Okay, so we're adding value to the property by doing repairs to the property, and we find those types of properties when we are looking for properties that meet 2 criteria. Let's go somewhere else. Let's go Austin, Texas. Okay, so we find these types of deals with 2 things. One, we're looking for people that have motivation, and we're looking for people that have equity. Okay, motivation. These are people that are going through a difficult circumstances. For example, like we put here on the software, these are called involuntary liens. So if you click on these and you come to the filter, you can see what that filter is. These are residential, single family, condo, townhouse. Maybe you want condos, maybe you don't. You come in and change that. They are not listed on the MLS. Maybe you want something that is listed in MLS. There's reasons. The lien is for more than $5,000. The value of the property is under $500,000, and the equity, there's 30% or more of equity. So the motivation is going to be they have this involuntary lien. The equity, I know they got 30% or more of equity based upon doing a reverse amortization. So those are the types of deals that I'm going to actually go after here. Here's another category. These are people that are in bankruptcy. These are people in bankruptcy that have some sort of equity. This is a list of people that are out-of-state owners that are probably burnout landlords. This is a list of non-owner occupied, meaning it's a rental property, which is also burnout landlords, but they live in the same state. This is a list of pre-foreclosures. And this is a list of properties that were on the market and actually failed. The other thing that you can do is you can do MLS sniping, where you look at stuff that's on the MLS that's been on for a long time that has equity, so that you can make offers to those. That's a whole other subject. I've got a video that goes through that. But those are the types of deals that we're actually looking for. Now, if you have the money, what you're going to do is you're going to buy it, you're going to renovate it, and then you are going to just rent the property. So to buy it, you'll probably have to put close to 20% down. You can probably do less, but if you got the money, you do it. And maybe you're going to spend $30,000 to $70,000 on doing a renovation. And if you've got the money, then you would put that money into it, and then you would get a long-term loan. And then you would rent that property out. Now, let's say on this specific property, I think the property we were talking about was $350,000. I'm going to want to buy that property for about 70% at least. I'm going to want to be 350 times 0.70. So I'm going to want to be somewhere around 245,000 that I'm buying that property. So if I'm buying it for $240,000, and I've got to put 20% down on that, and then I'm going to pay, let's say, $50,000 for rehab. 245 times 0.20, that ends up being $49,000. That ends up being about $100,000 that I'm into this, which means my loan on this property is for $200,000. Let's just do a quick loan calculator here. Your purchase price is $250. We're going to put 20% down. Annual taxes is a little less than that. Let's just say that. The interest rates right now, I think are going to be probably 6.5. We're not doing any insurance. We're not doing, so my payment is going to be $1,659. Okay. So on this, I'm paying $1,659, which means I am cash flowing after all of my expenses. 1,804 minus 1,659 means I'm cash flowing $145 a month. Okay. So you're going to say, well, that's not a lot of money. Yes, it's not a lot of money, but it's going to go up over time because let's look at rental graph. So this gives you an idea here what's happened over rents over time. So let's just take 2021. Let's take 2020, which is 1104, to 2010, which is 810. In the year 2010, the average monthly rent was $810. Okay. In 2020, 10 years later, the average monthly rent was $1,104. So let's talk about what that increase is. So we take $1,104, we subtract $810, which means it went up $294. We're going to divide that by 810, which is what it was originally, which means it went up 36% in 10 years. We're going to divide that by 10, so it went up 3.6% every single year. So we're seeing a 36% increase in rents over a 10-year period. Well, what does that do to this $2,700? Well, this $2,700 10 years from now is going to go up 36% on average, which means the $2,700 is now going to rent for $3,672 10 years later, which now means that your cash flow, if your payment is $1,659, your cash flow now is $2,000 a month every single month. And that's with still having the loan on the property. Okay, so that's the long-term game with this, is this goes up. And you may say there's no way rents are going to go up that high. Believe me, trust me, they will. You see it on the graph here, but the other place that you're gonna see that, I've seen it. I've had places that rent for $800 that now are renting for $2,500 20 years later. I've seen places that are renting for $1,000 that are now renting for $3,000 that are my own properties that I've purchased. I've seen this. This is going to happen. Will there be ups and downs? Yes. One of the interesting things here, though, is if you come and look at 2008, between 2005 and 2010, rents didn't go down, guys. Then you're gonna say, well, Ryan, like, how do I reconcile this? How do I make all this work? Or you may say, I don't have the money to put 20% down. I'm glad you asked. I was in that same situation, and I'm gonna show you how to do it. Okay, so your goal is $6,000 a month of passive income, but you don't have much money to start with. There's two approaches to this. Approach number one is you do deals to get money so you can put the money down in buying the rental properties and even pay for the repairs. The second way to do this is to use the BRRRR method, okay? Which means you buy, you renovate, you rent, and then you refinance. Both of these work. There's pros and cons to both of them. So when I talk about doing deals, my recommendation would be that you do one of three types of deals. I would look at doing land flips. I would look at doing wholesale. And I would look at doing fix and flips. If you've got a day job, which I hope you do, and you're taking care of your family, I think it's a lot easier to do land flips. Is the easiest, that takes the least amount of time. The next one, wholesaling, just takes a long time to find the right properties. So my number two would be fix and flips. But if I was starting all over again in 2024, I would be doing land flips. I would be doing land flips so I could get enough money so I could put some money down on some of these deals. That's option number one. Option number two is I would be doing the BRRRR method. And so the BRRRR method is what I'm actually doing is I'm buying a property with hard money, and I'm buying a good enough deal that I can get the purchase, the rehab, the closing costs, and everything included into that loan. So in that example, we were saying, if we're buying that for $245,000 and it needs $50,000 worth of work, we'll just call it a cool $300,000. That property is going to have to be worth more than that. So this property is going to have to be worth, I don't know, 375-ish, let's say, once the repairs are actually done to the property. What that allows me to do is it allows me to go in and refinance as long as there's 20% of equity once the rehab is done and not have to bring additional cash to the table. These are done with called DSCR, debt service coverage ratio loans, is what we're using to do this. What this does is it allows me, if I buy the property right, I can buy the property, I can renovate the property, and then I can refinance the property and have very little to no money into this property as long as I'm getting a good deal and I do a great job on my rehab, which that allows me to then refinance and actually have a property that I have very little to no money in. This does change the dynamics. So let's go back to our handy dandy calculator. So now your loan is for $300,000. Okay, so now your payment is $2,000 a month. And so if we take those things like we had listed with the insurance and everything else like that, you're probably going to be close to what's called a break even, which basically means after those expenses, you're not making any money. But the great news is you don't have money into it and you have equity in the property. So the value's in the property. So now it's a waiting game for rents to go up, for property values to go up. Now, if you bought a property like this every single year, in 5 years from now, you've seen an increase of rents of 15%. So now you're starting to cash flow. So if you can do a BRRRR deal where you break even with those expenses when you're planning on vacancy and capital improvements and everything else like that, if you can get close to a break even point, it's worth it because the tenant is paying down the principal every single month. The property value is going up over the long term and rents are going up over the long term. So let's say you did this for 10 years, okay? Let's say 10 years from now, let's say you bought a property every other year for 10 years. What does that look like? Well, what we know is the rents have gone up and we know that the principal has been paid down. So then you're getting yourself in a situation where you're having some really positive cash flow. And in a 10-year plan, you can actually have more than $6,000 a month of passive income coming in. But here's the deal, guys. It starts up front. You've got to start now. And a lot of people say, I'll start later, I'll start later. That's the worst thing. It's back to the whole analogy of when's the best time to plant a tree? And the best time was 10 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? And the answer is today. So there's no excuse, regardless of your situation or what you're going through, there's no excuse to not get started today. If you have bad credit, if you have issues, start doing some fix and flips, start doing some land flips so that you can acquire that money to pay those things and do those deals. If you have some money, start buying some of these rental properties, putting some money into those. If you don't, but you have decent credit, you need to be looking at the BRRRR method where you can get in for as little money as possible, knowing that values are going to go up, prices are going to go up, and rents are going to go up. So literally in a 10-year period, it is more than possible for you to get that $6,000 of cash flow over a 10-year period by looking at rentals going up, the rates going up. So if I was going to start all over again, I would start by either doing the BRRRR method if I had extra cash. If I didn't have extra cash, I would be doing land flips to acquire money. I would then be using some of that money to fix and improve my credit, and then I would be going directly to the BRRRR type method. If I had extra money sitting on the sidelines, I'd be using that money and use my money to do part of the rehab or to put money down so that I could avoid all the other costs. That is the secret to success here if you're starting over in 2024. I think one of the pitfalls people are not thinking about is the opportunity cost of not doing it. The biggest expense you have is the deals you're going to miss out on rather than the deals you may do. Look, I've made some bad deals and that has sucked, but I've been way ahead by doing deals than I haven't than by sitting on the sidelines and not doing deals. And over time, as you can see by the housing graph, if over time, as long as you have the staying power, it always works out. So I hope this has been helpful on how I'd invest in real estate from scratch in 2024.